Hello, everybody. It is I, Claude Bowles, and today I would like to explain structuring, which of course is a tax crime, and why Kent Hovind was rightfully found guilty of those tax crimes, including structuring. He's very fond of saying he didn't do it, and he has one of his sort of legal advisors, not a real lawyer, of course, has made up some website saying he's innocent. Well, I don't believe that's the case, and certainly the jury didn't believe it was the case either. So let's get into it. And when he explains, of course, what structuring is, he doesn't tell the whole truth, and therefore people think, "Oh, I'm only withdrawing my own money." There's a lot more to it than that. So Kent Hovind was indicted and convicted on 58 counts in 2006. 45 cinq of those counts were for structuring, which is systematically dealing in cash amounts less than $10,000 in order to avoid currency reporting requirements. And the structuring is related to 12 of the other counts. They're related, all related. And those counts relate to failure to withhold and pay payroll taxes. So that's what every normal person that has to do, that has people in effect working for them. You can imagine what the lengths that Hovind went to try and not pay his fair share to society, his, rendering unto Caesar. And that's just the type of guy he is. We've seen this other video that I put up where he didn't pay, claims not to have filed a return with the IRS for many, many, many years. So it's no surprise. So, what is structuring? Well, the law requires any financial institution, so that's like a bank or other groups, to report to the government through the IRS anytime a person, or I guess probably the company as well, withdraws or deposits at least $10,000 cash in a single day. So you'd think, oh, that's probably quite an easy law to avoid. You don't actually do the $10,000, you do just under it. And that's what people who don't really think um, do. And they think, oh, I've got away with this. And I suspect Mr. Hovind thought he'd got away. So instead of depositing or withdrawing $10,000 in a single day, you could split it over a couple of days. But of course, that doesn't really work because there's another law attached to it, which is called, well, it's designed, it says you can't structure. And an attempt by someone to get around the filing requirement by depositing, say $9,000 on 2 days, or $9,000 a few days in a row, or $9,999 even, um, then they fall foul of that other law, structuring. And you can see why that's been done. It is really sensible. So I guess you have to think, is that what Hovind did? Well, he was. He did. And apparently, between July the 20th, 2001, and August the 9th, 2002, um, there were 45 withdrawals. Okay. So in through to November the 2nd, each withdrawal is for 9,500, which is just conveniently. And then he ups the game and he withdraws 9,600. Initially, it's every 3 days, but they're never more about a month apart. Okay, so Hovind knew, according to a witness, and complained about the reporting requirements. So it's pretty good evidence that he actually deliberately did this structuring to avoid filing requirements. Anyway, so once he was convicted, he appealed, and in his appeal he argued that he was not guilty of structuring because the law doesn't penalize transactions of less than $10,000. Well, of course it does. And so the Court of Appeal wasn't going to go along with that, because the structuring law is written in pretty plain, easy to understand language, and it does penalize transactions of less than $10,000. So ultimately, that's what the Court of Appeals did. It upheld the conviction and the sentence. And the Supreme Court uh, said it did not want to interfere or hear the case either. So uh, that's where it ended. Uh, of course, Hovind was also charged with and convicted of, and I mentioned that a bit earlier, failing to withhold and pay various taxes he was obliged to withhold. And in addition, he was charged with and convicted of attempting to obstruct and impede the administration of the tax law. And of course, this is Hovind all over. So you can imagine, from memory, he was issuing threats and blah, blah, blah. And, if it wasn't him, then it was God was going to get them and blah. I mean, just the usual way that Hovind carries on if you've followed him over the years. Okay, so after he was convicted, before he got sentenced, there was an investigation report into that, and that put the first 12 counts of the indictment, the failure to withhold, into one group, and the next 44 counts, that's the structuring, into the second group. And the second group got a steeper sentence under the sentencing guidelines, and that's how come he got the top end of 120 months imprisonment. I think that it also probably had something to do with him being obnoxious. I think you'll find that, and if he'd sort of done the decent thing and admitted it from the beginning, I suspect he would have got a far less sentence. And of course, unfortunately, he got his wife in the jail, not for the same time as him, but for about a year. And I don't think she could ever forgive him for that. He threw her under the bus, as it were. Now, quite often when the subject's brought up, Kent Owen talks about some guy, Atchison, who was some sort of a prosecutor or an attorney or whatever, who he says was involved with the case, and that particular person was a deviant, and that's true, and he was heading off to engage in dreadful things with a young child. And then when he got arrested for it, he did take his own life, and that is absolutely true. But it's not true to connect it with Hovind's case. That is just a typical straw man or red herring that Hovind comes up with. Note also that, of course, when it comes to people doing deviant things that are his good friends, he defends them to the end. But I just can't understand that either. I'm getting a bit sidetracked. So, but the actual case docket history, there's one document found showing that this Atchison filed a motion in the case months after Kent's convictions and sentencing. Months after, not before. Not before. He was not the person that went after Kent, like Kent would have you believe. That is just simply not true, and it can be backed up with facts. So he filed shortly after that, and he also filed there was another document filed by another attorney advising the court the document filed by Atchison was being withdrawn. As it was a duplicate of what had been filed earlier by another attorney. So really, when you look at it, Atchison did not have, that involvement that Kent tries to make out. Why does he have to mislead people and not tell the truth? It makes it very difficult to understand, or actually not to believe, anything he has to say. So there you have it. Kent Owen, rightfully convicted of tax crimes, including structuring, which is clear to understand, and failure to withhold taxes that he should have been collecting. And because he is a bit of a prat, Instead of getting a lesser sentence, he got a bigger one, and that's absolutely fair. See what you have to say in the comments. Thank you.